A very warm welcome to each of you, and thank you for taking time out to catch us live. At SixSox Minds, we believe that each one of us has the capability to be a winner. We welcome all of you with open arms, as our goal is to serve the community, share experiences, and reach beyond. Our experiences are our stories, which in turn could be yours too. Today, we bring to you our speaker for the day who believes that sharing is caring, an enthusiastic individual who thinks that learning is a constant process. He has more than 3 decades of experience, and during this period, he has devoted his time to the development of others, as well as helping them realize their potential. He believes that learning and sharing are two sides of a coin, and the more we share, the more we learn. He is the perfect example of a leader who walks the talk. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Nagabhushan Balaji with his talk on After You, Who?
Thank you so much, Deepa. It's wonderful to have an introduction like this. Whenever I speak physically in meetings, I also have a thunderous round of applause which comes in together. And I would take it that your introduction comes with the applause. Let me start off right away. After You, Who is the topic for my evening. And some of the things which I do whenever I start speaking is to have disclaimers to my talk. Whatever I'm sharing today is something which is very important because expertise for me is not a finishing line. Because those of us who call ourselves as experts, we have still a lot to learn. It's a step to the next stage of learning. And whatever I'm sharing today is something which I have seen in my life right from the time I've got into my senses. It's also something which I have felt as I moved along. And eventually I thought that sharing is caring. And it's always good to share what I have seen and what I have felt. Characters and names in these presentations are fictitious and no identification with actual persons can be connected. So I might use some names which probably are real or not. So please don't connect to those stories. I start off with saying thank you to my parents because without their blessings and without them thinking of us, probably I would not have been born here and I would not have shared my story with you or I would not have been here with you. Along with that, I would also like to thank them for all my family members who have grown up with me. The 3 brothers, the sister, and of course, their wives, their husbands, and eventually the offsprings. What did our parents bring on to all of us? And like all of you in your life, parents, of course, drill down the value chain. They bring to us the values of our lives, things like integrity, honesty, respect, and what we need to do in our lives, as well as give us that part of education as well as skills which we need for our life as we move along. And I think I am no exception to that. My parents drilled in a lot of values in me, which has got embedded and has been passed on to generations as we have moved forward. Life for me, I always believe, is a succession of moments. As we lead every day, first and foremost is we thank God that we are still alive every day when we wake up. And after that, every moment in life we actually enjoy. We have a succession of moments. And I always remember that one speech which a lady gave, which was very clear in mind, which says, we do not remember days, we remember moments. And I'm sure this is the same for all of you. Every moment in your life is there like a mirror in your life. And for each one of us to leave those moments is to succeed. One of the questions which I have for all of you in the audience, are you holding back? Are you keeping secrets within you? Are you having something which you have not shared? Do you have those things in your life which you feel that if you share, you will not be respected or you'll be ridiculed? Do not do that. Do not hold back because nobody in this life is indispensable. All of us are here. We are leading our life temporarily, and one or the other day, we have to leave this world. And if we keep on holding back, and if we don't share what we have, I think eventually we are treating ourselves not so well. We need to pass on the legacy. We need to pass on the history of our life, and we are dispensable. One of the things which I always share with my friends is succession planning. And many a times I get these things which come into the discussions which say, why do we need it? Remember that we are born in this world. We grow up as children, and as children, we just make merry. We enjoy our lives. And then our parents put us into schools. We start studying. We know not what we are studying. And as we move along, we become adults. And when we become adults, responsibility comes into our life. And as responsibility comes into our life, we start growing more and more. And the weight of that family and the weight of that responsibility starts weighing us down. Eventually, we start growing old. We start looking at that life cycle again with a lot of children, with a lot of offsprings being born. And eventually, it's time for us to leave this world. And when we leave this world, what have we left behind? And that for me is something which we should all think of. That is the reason we need succession planning. I have heard a lot of friends, and especially even today when people sit with me, they say, why do I need it? I have built an empire and I have no intention to retire now. I'm very energetic, I'm healthy, and I enjoy my life. Not to forget, I'm very alert even today. I read a lot, I exercise a lot, and I keep healthy. So why do I need succession planning? My answer to them is very simple. There is no success for you without a successor. If in case you have built your empire, you need to also make sure that the legacy is passed on. Whatever you have built is passed on to a successor who continues what you have built. So for me, success is always not achieving what you wanted to achieve, but also sharing it and building your successors along with you. Some of you have already done this. Some of you are actually starting now, and some of you might have reached the pinnacle. But for all of you, this is something we need to understand. We need to think, plan, and organize in our lives. Whatever we have, we need to set a goal. And when we have set a goal, we need to know that that goal is something which is achievable. Remember one thing, this goal can change every time as we move forward in our lives. Set your goal and then create a blueprint, I call it. It's a plan which you need to put in place, because if in case you are actually failing to plan if you don't have a plan in place. So create that plan, create that blueprint, and then move forward. When you build it step by step. Do not just hurry up. Every brick which you build should be strong enough as a foundation. So build it step by step and then start developing it. And while you're developing it, nurture whatever you're building, whether it is personal, whether it is your business, your career, or whatever you're doing. Try to develop and nurture it. And as you nurture, remember the most important part in your life. Change is always there. Nobody expected us to have year 2020, half of the year being passed away without us physically meeting one another. Change is always there and change is constant. Sometimes change will come up in such a way that you're at the top of your career and you are thrown down. And sometimes change will appear that you don't know where you are and you build yourself up to such a way that you can't even imagine where you have reached. So accept change. And then remember failure. My friends sometimes come to me and tell me failure is no option. But for me, failure is an option, because failure is the stepping stone to success. As we move on in our life, there are a lot of failures which come in. But in each of those failures, we learn and we start thinking about reality. The goal we set is eventually becoming a reality. And we have made sure that as we move along, we have constructed something which we thought very early in life. And last but not the least, we have a passion which we develop for whatever we have done. And if that passion continues, every goal which you put in is an easy stone to reach. So my dear friends, at this moment, ask yourself these questions. You have done what you're supposed to do. You have your goals built in. You have made it a reality. You have built passion around it. And then you start thinking of, how can I involve my family? What is it that I need to do if I have to involve my family? Am I sharing whatever I have with my family, which I'm supposed to share? Do they know what I'm doing? Do they know the assets and liabilities which I have? What happens if I have to leave the world immediately now. I've been called and said, sorry, you're no longer alive. Does the family know what I have? So share with your family. What role will they play? If you have something which you have set up, maybe they are not someone who can take over everything, but then they might be somebody who have the skills to take over some parts of what you have built in. So think about what role will they play in the business or in your career which you have succeeded. Who should be my successor? You might have offsprings, not one, not two, maybe many. You might have a lot of people who are close to you. So you need to identify who should be your successor. Some of them might be there who are very good, but somebody might be apt to be your successor with the cultural fit which you're looking for. So think about who should be your successor. How will I train them? Do I have it in me to train them the way they will understand? The generation gap leads us to this phase that what I have learned in the 1970s and 80s may not be fit for the person who was being born now. He might be 20 or 25 and his ways of doing things might be different. So do I have that skill in me to train that person where he or she understands what I need to say? When and what do I transfer? Do I need to transfer everything which I have, or do I need to transfer a part of it which I have built? If I have developed something like 3 or 4 different branches of a business, do I need to transfer the whole business? Or do I need to stay there and transfer a part of the business and keep watching them? How do I do the handover? What sort of things do I need to think of when I do a handover? Is trust enough? Or do I need to have enough documentation in place when I do the handover? And last but not the least, when I have built something, it is my friends, my relatives, my customers whom I have built. When I am supposed to leave, what do I effectively communicate to them to understand that I have a successor and I have built in something which probably they need to understand? And eventually, they will support the successor in the same way they have supported me. At this juncture, I'll just switch on a video where my daughter has something to share with all of you.
Family, to me, is the foundation. Values and ethics passed down is what made me into who I am today and is molding me further as I move forward. Family is that safety net that I can always fall back upon. It gave me art, intricacies of planning and organization, and networking skills. Every minor detail that goes into things is what I've learned not from my education system, but from the family value system. It is that treasure that they've given me, their successor, in hope that I take it forward. Today, my cousins look up to me, and my baby sister is learning art from me, taking this plan forward. The family's acceptance, support, and space into transforming these base values to modern times in a guided manner, that to me is optimum succession planning. It's wonderful how they have put a system in place in such a way that the cycle naturally flows without any added effort for generations to come.
So my dear friends, for me, it's been slightly easy because I have only one child. Let me wait for the son-in-law to come in, and then I will realize who is the best fit to pass on what I have built. So succession planning is a process, and it's very important for us to understand this process. And the first step in this process is identification. Are we identifying our successor in the proper manner? Is that person qualified? Is that person culturally fit? Is that person the one who can actually carry the legacy forward? We have stories of the Tatas, of Infosys, of Raymonds who are built-in successors. They also have failed because what they have identified, those people might have been qualified, but then were they culturally fit? And we have seen in recent years, the changes again come in because they need to look for better successors. One of the things which I read in the newspaper today, and those of you who read Gulf News in the Y could read over it again. I read about a person called Srinivasalu, who is now one of the managing directors of the recovery cell of the biggest bank in India, State Bank of India. And the story of him comes that his father had developed a small shop in Andhra Pradesh. And he had two children, and both these children were taught to go and recover money which was due for the business. He learned his skill through the family. And the two things he learned was that recovery should be time bound, and recovery is something we need to always follow up. And today, after joining SBI as a collection agent 40 years ago, today he is the managing director of the recovery cell. So what is that which his father passed on that he has learned? Those two very important things were there, and eventually today he has climbed that ladder of success. So identification of your successor becomes very important, who carries what you have built in forward. Develop that person whom you have identified. You cannot simply say, I have identified this person and he or she will carry on what I have built. You need to be with them. You need to guide them. You need to mentor them. Many a times there are situations where probably they don't see eye to eye, or you don't see eye to eye with what they are doing. Hold on, have patience. You need to check whether you are nurturing them properly, and eventually are they understanding what you have built and where they need to reach. Every time when you build in something, go back, review what you have done. Even in our lives, if you are aged 40 or 50, go back and check your life as to what you have done in your life. Do I need to review? Do I need to now refine my goal? And do I need to start thinking of, okay, there is a change needed. Let me bring in that change to make sure that what I'm trying to achieve will be achieved. And then slowly start thinking of handover, because you have done your job. You have identified, you have developed, you have nurtured, you have groomed, you have mentored, you have reviewed whatever you need to review. And then eventually it's time for you to hand over to somebody who will carry that part of yours, which you will be very happy about. I've always loved this sport because I started off my life with this sport. But one of the things which this greatest cricketer had said is you need to know when you leave the stage. At the peak of your career is the best time to leave the stage, which means you need to leave when people ask why, not when people ask you, when will you leave? So think about it. When you have developed something very, very well, leave the stage at the right time of your career. Eventually, I love this. Because you have done everything, it's time for you to relax. Enjoy with your family. There are lots of moments in your life while you're building your entire empire, you didn't have time to enjoy. It's now time because somebody else is taking care of your business. I go back to my life, one of the instances which I will never forget. I was always brought up in a particular locality. And when I got married, I shifted. And I was looking for a male salon, a haircutting salon, which was something which I could adjust. My brother-in-law showed me that place. And when I went to that place, I saw an old man who was taking care of everything. And he had a son who was almost equal to my age, or slightly elderly, who was with him. And I used to see that the old man was the one who was commanding everything. And the son was taking over assignments which were minor. Slowly as time passed, I saw the old man starting to relax. I saw the old man coming to that place only probably in the mornings or only in the evenings. And eventually he used to come only an hour in a day. And one day I didn't find him. It was this person who had taken over from him. And I asked him, where's your father? He said, it's time for him to relax. I have now taken over and he's happy with whatever we built. He's now enjoying with my kids. See, whatever you could not do in your life when you're building your empire, think of your successor and eventually start relaxing. Relaxing doesn't mean you let go completely. You need to be there to counsel. You need to be there to guide. There are times when they fall down, you're there to lift them up. So always be there to counsel them and to mentor them. Give them space. The very, very important part of succession planning is space. You cannot sit in a car on the rear seat and keep on telling the driver, this is where you need to go. This is where you need to turn. This is where you need to reach out. It can't happen. The driver will get confused and he will take you to another place. Instead, you tell the driver before you sit in the car that this is where I need to go, and leave the driver to drive you to that place because he knows the route, he knows the destination. So you need to give them space as you build on. And eventually, bask in the glory which you have built, the glory which your children or your inheritors are taking care of, and you enjoy your life. It's not what you take when you leave this world behind you. It's always what you leave behind when you leave. So remember this, do something where people will remember you. Do something in succession planning and handover. It's now time, my friends. Think about it. After me, what have I done? Have I nurtured people? Will they carry my legacy? Are they the right fit? And I'm sure everybody will be thinking about, yes, I have done my life, what I need to do. And after this, after me, now start thinking if you have not done it. Who?